Brilliant.
Happy Friday. Happy Friday, everybody. We're here for another Friday conversation with some friends. So we'll go ahead and do some introductions. So everybody say hello. Kayla, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. My name is Kayla. I talk about books on the internet in various places, uh, mostly my YouTube channel, Kay's Hidden Shelf, and I'm excited to chat and chill.
And Lana?
Hi everyone, I'm Lana from the Booktube channel Law and Lullabies. I am a hobby booktuber, so I don't have a schedule or anything. I post when I post. And I'm also the creator of the India Chords, which is a Indian self-pub readathon that goes for the month of July. So round 2 is nearly finished at the end of this weekend, and so we have some pretty amazing things happening and in the works for that. So it's all very exciting.
Nice.
Children, hey. Well, hi, I'm Jose. I live in Spain. I'm very much like Lana. I just talk about books as and when I can. I try to make it once a week, but sometimes that's just not possible. And I mostly read quite varied range of books and genres, but mostly I talk about fantasy. But I do read other stuff as well.
And did you finish up your Wheel of Time journey?
Yes, that was very painfully and slowly finished earlier this year in March. That chapter of my life is closed, never to be reviewed, revised, or gone through ever again.
Was it that painful?
It's just yeah. Let's not go there. I've got a whole ranty video giving my reasons as to why I think the Wheel of Time sucks.
So I'll be reading that next year. I've got high hopes now.
Yeah.
Hey, don't let me put anyone off.
No.
This was my experience,
Of course.
and maybe just one of those things where, it's happened to me a couple of times when people sell you a series, a movie, whatever it is, like so high, so much, or, blah, 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 blah. And then you read it and you watch it and you go, is this it? Is this like 100 million copies sold? And I do not understand at all why. I was very underwhelmed throughout.
I'm sorry to hear that. It's the trap of the hype train.
I think
100%.
I made a video with listing all my criticisms of it, and even fans of the series would agree with me. Yeah, so I guess it's one of those things where you acknowledge that something is not very good, but you still like it for whatever emotional reason, or you can see the flaws, but you work past them because you really like whatever is happening. It just wasn't the case for me. Like I couldn't get past the flaws. It was too much to bear.
Yeah, that happens.
But you did read them back to back, right?
I did one book a month. So it was a read along with Ian from the B&B Books channel. So we started in January of 2021. We were doing one book a month. I think we took a break of 1 month after book 5 or so before hitting the infamous slog, which is a real thing. Okay, there's a section like in the middle there. There's about 4 books that you could easily not read and not lose any sense of what's happening in the story. Like honestly, just pure filler, right? Nothing happens. Just people talking and not achieving anything. So yeah, that was my story. Yeah, so book a month, and that's as much as I could stomach.
That's a long series to read a book a month. It's quite a schedule.
Yeah,
For any series, really.
Yeah, because like I was talking to Ian recently, and we were thinking, oh, what series are we gonna read together again next year? But the Wheel of Time put me off. I don't want to pick another super long series, and then find, and I got to be better at saying, look, I don't like it, it's not for me, leave it. But the completist in me, the obsessive in me goes, no, I've started, I've got to finish it. So now I'm really scared now if I pick Malazan, or if I pick, Stormlight or something like that. It's like, oh, they are really thick books, and I don't have that much time to read, so I don't want all my reading time to be taken up by something I don't quite enjoy. So I need to think about it.
Yeah, that's understandable. There's a lot of time commitment in those big chunky series.
It's especially, maybe go with some standalones for a little bit before you get into it. Like Malazan they're big books and it's a long series, so it may not be the best option, right? Coming off of Wheel of Time.
Well, and the thing is that I shot myself on the foot because I made this mock ranty video about the fake Malazan fans that don't read the Esselmount books, they only read the Erickson books. And it's like, no, you got to do it properly. You got to read all of them in publication order, which makes the series like 20-something books. And now if I said that, I kind of just go and read just the core Erickson books, right? So maybe I have to stay well clear of Malazan. I don't know.
I think that's a safe bet, because otherwise you'll just be like, hey, remember that time when you did that video?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Put myself in a corner.
You've done it now.
What's the longest series you guys have read?
Probably quartets. But I'm also trying to continue series. So the series, say it's like a trilogy, and then it continues on with a next generation or something like that. Those are my next ones to start. So I'm like you, it's a time commitment and it's intimidating to start big series. So probably quartet for me.
For me, it's probably like the most amount of books is actually probably like Animorphs or something, but they're only like tiny little, like 250 pages. Other than that, probably like, I'm trying to think, Harry Potter maybe?
That's true.
Because that was like 7, 8 books?
7 books, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think anything's held my attention for that long since.
And Nathaniel had a comment. Hi, everyone. Time to see if Kay has more children's tea.
I doubt it.
I don't know. I think Kay has me beat there. It's the tea. It's a voice off.
We'll have to let the people decide.
Yeah.
Do a poll at the end.
Yeah. And Dr. Puff and stuff is here. We just wrapped up our podcast of part 1 of The Darkness That Comes Before. It was a great time. So glad you can make it. People can change. So Lana, with the Indie Accords wrapping up, how did the month go for you? Like what? And it's a lot of work for you to do all this. So how did everything turn out this year?
It was the whole format was slightly different to last year. Last year I wasn't a captain, so I've read a lot more. This year, for me personally, I've done a lot more admin for it and around it, and because last year there wasn't really any prizes or anything like that, and the prizes that there were, that was on me. So this year, amazingly, we had so many indie and self-pub authors reach out and say, hey, I'm more than happy to put forward a copy of my book for you to give away, which has been amazing. And yeah, I'm not really an admin person, so I have to give a shout out to Jordan because he has done so much work. Like, it's as much his as it is mine now. But yeah, it's been really fun this year. I think it's got a lot more traction than it did last year. And thanks to like Thiago, Abdallah, and Troy Knowlton and their Smack Talk. They've just made it like this massive thing that I never thought that it would be. And like hearing authors that I've like haven't really spoken with on like one-on-one conversations like mention my baby. It like I do like fangirl screams every single time that I see that. So it's just amazing, and like it's surreal for me at the moment. Like there is a lot of work behind the scenes that goes on, but it's just been so fun. And like getting the main goal is always just to get people to read more indie and take a chance on stuff that they may not have otherwise. And like my goal before I started or before I announce it every time is if one person picks up an indie that has never read an indie before, then like mission accomplished. So we've had a few of those and some like genre crossing as well this year. So it's just been absolutely amazing. And the teams and the captains and just everyone has got really into it and really behind it and has been super supportive. So yeah, so with the help of a couple of people in the community, Kayla included, we have some big plans for the Indie Accords moving forward. Very excited. Watch this space.
I know we all appreciate all the work you put into it. It's great to have more people pick up indie and self-pub books.
Yeah.
And
Of
I
course.
really liked Wheel of Time. Not a top 10, but I still enjoyed it. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The thing, because I've picked up a couple of indie books this year, and the one thing I just couldn't get past, one of them in particular, I don't know, but like the editing was so bad, and the amount of spelling mistakes, the amount of, really like, spelling, some of the grammar was wrong, and it really does detract and puts me off from picking indie books, because obviously the quality of production isn't there. I don't necessarily need the book to be super neat or have the best design covers or anything like that, but the actual text, it needs something more than just someone putting it through spell check on Word and saying, it's ready to go out there. Obviously, I'm not saying that's what happens across the board, but I've seen it happen, and it just, why would I pick an indie book when I can get something more or less same price from established author, from, something I really want to read, that is going to be a more enjoyable experience than an indie book.
I want to challenge that. I'd say that's like a book by book basis, because there are so many indies that are top tier. Like if you like fantasy, I would highly recommend Ryan Cahill's series. It is, one, it's beautiful. Two, the story is amazing, and three, that like I couldn't fault it. It's like one of my top series ever. And like the work that's gone into it is like top tier. Like I've read traditionally published books that weren't as clean and crisp as that one. That's like just the first one that pops to my head.
Yeah, I think self-pub has come a long way, and I think there are a couple out there that are, not as well put together, but I think the majority of them now are pretty solid.
Yeah, I've chatted with a few self-pub authors, and I think it does make a difference on whether or not they go for editing, but it seems like more often than not, they go through a strict process with editing, just from the ones I've interacted with, the books that I've read. And I mean, like I've read traditional published books with typos in them as well. So, I think I get it when you find those ones that just are not edited, it kind of puts you off. But I think it's worth trying to weed out some of the ones that you might enjoy and are actually really clean and well done.
We could make some suggestions for you next series.
Go on. Go on.
Lana,
I'll do it so you don't have to. How's that?
Oh, we already did. Yeah, we already have. Nathaniel said, "I'm happy reading the first book of a series. That ought to be enough to know whether its ideas are worth exploring further. Sorry, otherwise, being a completionist is a trap."
Yeah, it's a curse.
Yeah, it's harder to throw in the towel though when you're too deep.
Yeah. It always like fascinates me when people read a first book and like the first book of a series and they're like, oh, it was crap. But the second one was great. I'm like, the first one was crap, but you still kept reading. Is that like a completionist thing, or are you like insane or a masochist? What are you doing?
Insane. Absolutely. I mean, I've done that. For me, it's wanting to give the author a try. You know, the first book, maybe it's not great, but maybe their writing improves, or maybe the story develops in a way, or the characters develop in a way that I'll like better. So it's like a second chance for me. That's how I try to see it.
Yeah.
I tend to find that usually the beginnings of a series are better than the continuations. I think that's more or less the trend. Usually they start with a very good idea. Sometimes it's meant to be a standalone and then they get successful, so they make it into a trilogy. So usually the first book is the more well-rounded one of them. And finishing a series we've talked about before is quite complicated to give everything a fully, to give a satisfying conclusion to a series. Sometimes the story runs away from the writer, but this is my impression.
Brady said, "The one thing I like about the Indie Accords group is that other people have read through and can recommend a book, so you can have more of a chance at getting a really good one." Bound and the Broken is so freaking good. There's some recommendations for you. Hannah Blackwell's here, and Ash and Sand, of course, one of my favorites. It's dark, but it's great. Jose, what indie books did you read?
Well, one was a Spanish horror writer, so there's no point talking about him, but I met the guy at a con. We got talking. He sold me the book, signed it. It was all, great. And then it just wasn't that good. But, I do admire people, because I've written a few books, but I've never really taken that final step to start peddling it out there, putting myself out there and doing it. So I've got, I know what it takes to write a book. I used to pay someone to go through the editing process and try to do the best thing I could, but I could never commit to that final step. So I got, the utmost respect for people that do that. I think last year, my wife bought, and by accident, we got 2 copies of it. I think it's independently published. I don't know. It's called The Slumps. It's this extreme horror, gory thing. It's 150 pages, and I could not finish it. It was so stomach churning that it's so disgustingly graphic, and like I had to. It was a DNF. It was my first DNF in decades. It was horrendous, and now I've got 2 copies sitting there on the shelf. I'm happy to ship overseas. I don't mind transatlantic. If anyone wants a copy of The Slumps, check out the review on my channel. It is awful, awful, awful. That's my selling point to you. If you're into that kind of stuff, go for it.
You had me at you don't have to look.
Are you checking it now?
You had to be an extreme horror, yeah.
Oh God! Look, but you try, and you go, not for me, or hey, I found this new thing. That's really cool. I don't know.
What kind of horror like subgenre are you into?
Very sort of traditional, big fan of Lovecraft and everything around, all the authors around what he did. I like it, your traditional ghost tales and the sort of more, the romantic 19th century writers and so on. Although I picked up a couple of Ramsey Campbell short stories and things like that. I think for me, horror works in a short story format. It doesn't work over a protracted 400-page book. So it was another one of my cheeky videos. That's why I don't think Stephen King is a horror writer. The only book that worked for me is his short story collection, The Skeleton Crew, and Pet Sematary. Sorry, those are the only two books worth reading of Stephen King.
You're a tough man to please.
Just this, but I gotta like, if I'm doing this for a hobby, if I'm just trying to have conversations with people, I gotta say what I think. And there's been some Stephen King books, because I used to read a lot when I was at university, because I had the long commutes back to the airport and then take the plane and stuff like that. So they were the easy ones to grab at the coach station or the airport. And I've read some Stephen King books, and you go, what is this? What is actually The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon? What's that all about? And things like Firestarter, things like The Dark Half. It is not horror. Call it paranormal, urban, whatever, something else. But, what horror books has he actually written? Go on. I'll put the question out to you.
It, maybe?
Yeah, I was just about to say, is it not horror?
1,000 pages. It. Over 1,000 pages. Really? That's horror. Really? You read it for 1,000 pages and you were scared, uncomfortable throughout, right?
No, I haven't finished it yet. I've been working on it slowly over the years.
The truth always comes out.
Yeah.
So I actually don't read horror. I've tried one or two, but I'm too much of a chicken to sit through horror. So I will say I've been wanting to try Stephen King, and the only book I have by him is Skeleton Crew. So I'm happy that at least worked for you. But yeah, who knows when I'll get to it, because I'm just like, I have to be in daylight in the company of other people to not be scared.
That'll make you uncomfortable. There's a couple of stories there that you go, how does anyone even think about this? That's a good one. And the good thing about short stories is, you pick them up, you drop them, you can go in and out between other books, and that's the good thing about it.
Little palate cleansers, yeah.
Yeah, I think they're great for reading slumps. When you're in a slump, their short stories are great for that too, I think.
Yeah,
And,
I picked up the full Conan stories for like 99 cents on the Kindle, and between books, I would just read one of them, and it takes about, according to the Kindle, it takes me like 40 minutes to read one of the short stories, and they're quite cool. It sort of empties your brain in one afternoon or 2 afternoons, and then you're ready to pick up the next book. And so far, it's working quite well for me.
And Chadia jumped in at the right time. She's also reading horror at the moment. Let us know what you're reading, what book you're reading. Kay's looking for suggestions.
Yes.
Chris says, I don't get scared very much by books, but The Shining is pretty grim throughout. I'd say horror is a bit more than just being scary, though. It's tough to maintain that level of fright and terror throughout its whole story. So then you just kind of become numb to it, and it's not as effective as if it's constant.
Yeah, for me, it's the suspense that leads up to the horror. I just don't like that. I don't like that part.
Whereas I really enjoy the uncomfortable ending. And Lovecraft does that a lot, where the story just wraps up in an ellipsis that goes into, oh my God, and it just leaves it in your head to figure out the next bit. And for me, that's like it's a really cool experience when you're reading in bed at night. You're on your own with the light on, and then you have this sort of slight twist at the end, and it's like, oh, Now I gotta turn the light off.
That's a big nope. Nope for me. Turning that light off.
Kayla, are you a fan of horror movies or just not horror books?
No, I don't do horror movies either. All of it, I've tried them and I'm just too much of a chicken. I'm the person hiding behind the sofa, like plugging my ears and hiding and not watching it while my friends are watching it.
What about you, Lana?
I always thought that I wasn't a horror person until last year when I started by reading Michael Clark and absolutely loved it. What's it called?
Theory of a Dead Man?
Yes, that one. And I absolutely loved it. It gave me like creepy vibes, and like usually if I know something's like based on real life, I'm like, it creeps me out. I'm like, nope. But I don't know what it was about this book, but it like put me on the path of loving horror. Like it was like the perfect amount of creepy and the perfect amount of like, just, it was absolutely great. I absolutely loved it. And so now I'm just like, yes, horror, give it to me. The creepier, the better. And so I like paranormal horror. I don't like extreme horror, or not like body horror doesn't bother me so much, but not like extreme gore. I'm just like, not for me.
Yeah, I just found it like for me it was a shock with the Slob because I've watched like all the Saw movies, which is sort of fairly sort of splatter, quite extreme body horror. The Human Centipede, which is something I haven't forgiven my wife for making me watch years ago. I don't even know why we got married even after that, but anyway. But I've watched all those things. I managed to make it through that. And the Slob, which is just in print, you don't even have the visual cue to help you along. And I could not stomach that. I had to put it down. I don't know what it was. Maybe it's because it's in my head and I'm the one making the picture in my head. But yeah, completely stomach churning for me.
Yeah, the Human Centipede was a big no for me. I heard about what it was about, and I was just like, how is there a market for that?
I just feel a bit like I mentioned there, and I just saw all your faces, everyone going, oh, and it's like, oh my God, okay, I just got into somewhere I shouldn't have gone. I do apologize.
Yeah, it was that movie that movie sent me over that movie made me realize there's some things you just shouldn't see. There's just some things you just shouldn't see, and that was one of them. Yeah.
And it's not even that graphic. It's not even that. But I think the concept of it is really, and that, yeah, then no interest at all on the second or the third part.
To kind of go back to something you said where, the authors will go into a certain level of detail and then your imagination can just take that and just run off, right? That's kind of the reason I like fantasy, is because I can do the opposite. If there's a, detailed action scene, battle, a war, I can kind of turn it down a little bit and skim through and not imagine as in detail. And they also don't go into as much detail as a horror book might go. So those kind of things I can stomach, but the concepts that some of these horror writers come up with, I'm just like, do I need to be concerned that these people are, that they're thinking of these?
Well, that's the question, right? And that's the thing I never want to assume, or that may seem to be the logical conclusion, right? So what kind of person comes up with this? And I don't want to say, I don't want to imply, but we all think it, right?
And it's actually really funny because all of the horror authors that I've either chatted to or seen on live shows are legitimately the most beautiful, nicest people. Like,
it's so weird, huh?
Yeah. Like, you have such a dark mind to come up with all of this that you are like, what is this person like if this is like what comes out of their head? And they're just so beautiful and genuine and like normal.
We hope.
Yeah.
Chris said horror movies tickle a different part of father brain than books for me. Horror movies can be about being playful, creative, and fun. Torture horror side.
And I think it's the psychology of horror as well, that like once you're in there, you are completely in, and it just like grabs you tight and doesn't let go until it's ready to. And I think that's what I enjoy about horror. I feel like I'm like, hard to explain, not exactly like strapped to a chair forced to watch something, but it just it tickles a different side of my brain to when I'm reading like fantasy or middle grade or anything like that. It's just like a fun time, but every now and then you want like something else, and that's what horror does for me.
Yeah.
Tony, yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. Sorry, Steve. Go.
Oh, I was going to say, Tony had a comment. The Human Centipede, probably the most disturbing movie ever made. I've heard the second and third ones are worse. I'm not going to watch them, but
I'm with you on that one.
I didn't even know there was a second and third.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Just goes to show there's a market for everything.
Yeah, but I think bringing it back to a point that Kayla made earlier, like for me, a lot of horror movies fail once they show you the monster. I think the build up to the creepy bit, so the, sort of the descent into the madness, is what really does creep me out. Once they show me the monster, I'm like, oh, all right, some CGI stuff or some sort of, person in costume. Usually, the ending of the horror movies is the least scary bit, whereas that build up is what really like has you on edge. I think it's a bit of a letdown. Don't know. Maybe writers take note and just don't end the story. I don't know. Just leave it in the air.
could leave it ambiguous.
That's right.
Well, even like a franchise like the Alien franchise, the first couple of movies, or the first movie especially, the Alien, you don't really see it that much, and it adds to the horror element when you just get bits and pieces of it, and when you can see it, it has a different feeling to it. And you mentioned The Descent, which I thought was funny because in the movie The Descent, when they filmed it, the actors didn't see the creatures until they were filming, so it contributed to their fare, and you could just get bits and pieces of them too. So that was interesting.
Yeah, I think there's like a very fine line, because I'm the same. Like it's hard to be afraid of something that's known, but if it's like you are just getting glimpses and bits and pieces of it, your imagination just runs wild and adds to the suspense and horror.
That's the great quote from Lovecraft, isn't it? The greatest fear known to mankind is fear of the unknown.
Dr. Puff and stuff. I don't read much horror, but I remember having the telltale heart nightmares as a kid after I read Poe. I've never read long horror. Nathaniel said, I've just started reading, trying out some horror. Thankfully, the books tend to be shorter than fantasy. Yeah, that's a plus for horror books.
Unless you pick Stephen King and you are stuck with The Stand or It or Dreamcatcher, in which case you're going to get no horror and all the length in the world. So
his short stories are more like novellas than they are short stories, I think. Dirk said, I don't know if these count as horror, but I weirdly liked Bird Box more than A Quiet Place, maybe because the monsters are never really shown in Bird Box.
is that the one they did on Netflix?
With Sandra Bullock?
I think so.
The Bird Box, the one with was it the blind kid or something like that with Sandra Bullock?
I think it may be on Netflix, but I think it was in theaters, though, I think.
Oh,
Yeah, they have to like be blindfolded or something, because if they see whatever it is, then it turns them. Like it makes
something like that, isn't it? And then when they get to the safe place, whatever they get to, everyone is blind there, which is why they survived, whatever it was. Is that the one?
I can't remember the ending.
Yeah. I just spoiled the ending of some movie so randomly there. I should stop talking now.
Dr. Puff and stuff has an interesting comment. What about horror stories that aren't so monster-driven, such as Hereditary or Midsommar? I love those too.
I haven't read those two. No, I really want to. Hereditary and Midsommar.
I'm a fan of A24 movies. Some of them can be a little too artsy, but have you seen those, Kay?
No, unfortunately not.
I'm a fan of both of those. Those are great movies. Drew said, hello, everyone. Can't stay, but wanted to pop in and say hi. Red Country update for Steve, only about halfway through, but so far enjoying significantly more than BCS or BSC and The Heroes. He doesn't agree. I enjoyed the standalones more as we went, and it was the opposite. So the first lot standalones, for anyone who's wondering.
Speaking of, I've just picked up randomly book 2 and 3 of The Age of Madness, because I got them signed. I got signed copies in the UK. So when I go to London in a couple of weeks' time, I'll pick them up. So if you were planning on finishing all the Abercrombie stuff, I'm sort of getting ready for that at some point in the future.
Cool. Yeah. Have you finished, Lana and Kay, have you read the standalones on the second trilogy?
Nope. I haven't.
No. Not yet. It's next on my list to get through. I read the first trilogy, and it's just one of those series where I'm a little afraid to keep going. Yeah.
I know what you mean. And Andrew's here. Hi, friends. He unfortunately couldn't make it tonight, but of course he's missed. Red Country for life. I was warning him that Narwhal would be outnumbered, and so
he ran in fear.
he did.
We love you, Andrew.
Although I've heard some not so positive reviews about the Age of Madness trilogy. Apparently, there were some criticisms about, I don't know, that he kind of toned down the whole thing because he got some backlash or whatever. Have you guys heard anything about that?
No.
I've been trying to avoid that kind of stuff just so I don't get spoiled on accident.
Same.
Yeah. I think Kay, you're a lot like me. But we like to go into books almost blind. Is that?
Yeah, as much as I can. Sometimes I don't even read the synopsis. If someone just tells me, "Hey, this is great," and it's this genre and has maybe this trope or element in it, I'll try it.
I'm very much the same. That's why I don't really do TBRs or MBRs anymore, because I'm like, this is a book that I'm interested in, don't know anything about it, there's griffins. That is the extent of my thing. I'm just like, it's just a waste of time. Why am I doing these?
I just started reading the back of the books for mine.
I did pick up Grace of Kings. Have any of you guys read this one?
Yeah.
I gave in to the hype.
Yes. Do you have like a plan of when you're going to read it?
I don't. It's funny because I bought it and then I have it in my hands. I'm like, when am I going to read this? Because we're reading all the Baker books, and then we're reading Empire of Dust. We're having that discussion. We're doing Age of Madness hopefully soon. We're doing The Expanse. This is like I'll read it sometime.
Wow. When do you find time for anything else?
Just have to. I'm trying to prioritize the different series. Thankfully, the Expanse books are very easy to read. They you just fly through them, so it's helping out.
Yeah. How long is a TBR before it stops being a TBR and just madness, right? Because I mean, the lovely Jolien who isn't here, I've already told her, like that she doesn't have a TBR. She's got a whole bookshop there waiting to be. So I don't know. As soon as I got more than 3 books on my shelf to be read, I start getting nervous and anxious. So I don't know. Is it just me?
Yeah.
Oh, I
think so.
lost that feeling long ago.
Yeah. Yeah, at this point for me, I do MBRs or might be read for like a specific time frame. So like I might read any of these books within this month, and then anything else is considered my ever growing TBR, which I will get to at some point. And it's just there, and it's how I keep track of the books that I want to read, basically.
Yeah,
Same.
Andrew sounds like Andrew's in for Age of Madness. And Andrew read. I'm sorry. Andrew read 300. He has 300 unread books on his shelves.
Well, but that's a
That's
library,
just on
isn't
his
it?
shelves.
Just on his shelves.
Not 1,000 books. TikTok told me that at 1,000 books, it becomes like on your shelves. That becomes a library.
All right. But 300 is perfectly acceptable. That's a number we are socially comfortable with, isn't it? All right. Okay.
I don't know. Well, Andrew read like 24 books this month. I don't know how, but
Was
so
it
he's
25? Yeah, 25
was it
books. I
25?
think.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And they weren't short ones either. Like decent sized books. He's just a machine.
I don't know how he does it. I don't think he sleeps. I know he keeps telling us his secrets, but Andrew, I still don't believe that you sleep.
They're lies.
He's very competitive. Derek, TBRs are tough because I feel like buying books and reading books are sometimes 2 very different hobbies.
Oh, they are. They very much are. And yeah.
Chetty has a TBR of at
Oh.
least 250.
Have you people consider putting that money towards some sort of psychological consultation? I don't know.
That's what the books are for.
Exactly.
Down the line.
Well, to decorate your room. Oh,
Yeah. They keep me warm at night.
oh God.
Andrew actually had 26 this month.
Jesus. I don't know. If I read 3 books in a month, I consider that an excess.
Yeah.
How far out do all of you plan? Or at least, I don't know, maybe not a TBR, but just have like a general idea of what you want to be reading. How far out do you plan for that?
Reading or review requests aside, usually like a month ahead. Anything after that, I try and leave open because I like to mood read, and I'm like a magpie with books. So I see a book, I'm like, oh, that looks nice. I'm going to read that. I've got like 400 on my list on Goodreads, but whatever.
Yeah, I think the only ones that I plan in advance are buddy reads. So I have like in my like book journal, I've got all of the buddy reads for the year. And then other than that, because I participate in a lot of readathons, so I have like a massive pile of about 100 books that I'm like, I would really like to finish these this year. And then I try and pick from those. But then I look at my other like 200 books and then feel bad. So
See, it makes you feel bad. Shows you got a conscience.
Dr. Puff and stuff, I don't talk about books on YouTube, so maybe it's easier for me just to read what I buy and hold out until I finish.
there is like a little bit of pressure with like being on Booktube, because, or not so much pressure, but like influence. I feel like I'm constantly influenced by like especially what you guys read and like what Andrew reads, and I'm just like, if he likes that, I will probably like it too. And especially like, because like Andrew is a one-man hype train. Like when he is excited about something, I am excited about something. I'm like, I don't even know what this is, but I need it. So yeah, I spent a lot of money on books the last couple of months.
Both Andrew and Jord do that to me every month.
Yeah. Actually, they're the worst. And because their tastes are so similar, that they like combine forces. And if I get a message from Andrew saying, I think you'll really like this book, like almost always, I'll also get a message from George saying, have you heard of this book? Like, you should check it out. I think you'll like it. And I'm like, oh, no, I have to buy it.
What about you, Jose? Do you plan 4 out?
Not really. Never really have, and it's only become a thing since I started talking about books on YouTube. So usually I just read what I read. This year I planned a bit more because I really wanted to finish Wheel of Time. I want to finish Realm of the Elderlings. Basically, there's a few series that I had ongoing that I want to finish this year, and the view was to start 2023 with a clean slate and maybe pick up the next big series. But since I'm a bit off big series, there's a vague plan, but then I got sidetracked because then I did the read along for the standalones in First Law with you and Jolien, and that was nice. It was unexpected. And other than, I'm currently reading a book that I'm halfway there. There's the next one on the shelf, and after that, I know I want to pick the last trilogy in the Elderlings series. I know I want to finish the last 2 books in the Eldrick saga, but beyond that, it's sort of fairly unplanned. I just want to read what I'm curious about, and things that I don't have that much time to keep up with all the channels I'm subscribed to. I wish I did, but I haven't got that time in the day to watch everyone's content. So I kind of pick and choose. But I really try not to get swayed by what other people are reading. I'm aware of newer series from what you guys talk about, because I tend to read more classics, as Steve might know. So I don't see many people talking about things like Elric or Corum or things like that from the 60s and 70s. Everyone seems to be reading whatever is the latest fantasy series, and that is what keeps me up to date with new stuff. But beyond 2 months, I haven't got a clue what I'm going to be reading.
Give into the hype.
I can't. It's not in me. I can't.
And Chris said Discord is the worst for it. There's so many recommendations on a daily basis. That's another reason I avoid Discord.
I don't understand Discord. I got it because I used it to play role-playing games online with people. It's the only way. But I do not understand what Discord is meant to do. I don't get that.
It's just a place to chat, I guess. But,
well, the old IRC chat from back in the 90s.
It kind of reminds me of that, yeah, like the old IRC. Or is anyone else familiar with that, or am I showing my age here?
We are showing our age.
Yeah. Danielle is here. Hey, Danielle. Carl said, I have 3 authors I'd read upon release. Anything else I want to read, I'll get to it when I get to it. Tony says, I have much admiration for you guys and the amount of books you read. Since I started writing, I only managed 2, maybe 3 books per year. Well, if you're writing, that's a pretty good excuse. That takes a lot of time.
Yes, and just on that, I am glad that you are writing because I need more. I need book 2 ASAP.
What is everyone reading now?
Well, I am, what am I reading? Army of the Curse by Krim Solomon. It's an indie author. Trying to fit it in before August so that it counts for the the India Course readathon. and Red Mars by Kim Bradley Stanley, I think is his name. It's a sci-fi.
I'm currently reading Lucy of the Brightwash by Crystal Matar, and which is a she dubs it a grim dark romance, which I think should 100% be a subgenre of grim dark. It's like two of my favorite things mixed together, and it's amazing. And I'm also reading Dark Fae, which TikTok made me do it, and also another book club that I'm a part of. It's part of the Zodiac Academy. It's like I think it's a romance, but I don't know if it's dark romance or what it is. But there's a lot of hype on it on BookTok, which I'm not on. I just watch and fall into a hole and stay there for hours.
What about you, Jose? What are you reading now?
Halfway through the Conan stories, and also at the moment I'm halfway through. It's a Spanish author. It's been translated into English and other stuff, but it's a book about the medieval historical hero El Cid. So it's about during Spain when it was all broken into Christian and Muslim kingdoms, and they used to fight each other and ally with each other against everyone else, and that kind of period of time. And he's the hero of legend that got banished by the Christian king, and he allied with the Muslims to fight the Christians, but then he allied back with the Christians to fight the Muslims and stuff like that. So it's about kind of a historical fiction of medieval Spain. So actually, I'm quite enjoying it. I think if it gets translated into English, it's definitely worth giving it a check.
I've actually recently read like a couple of historical fiction, and because I didn't think that was really my thing, but after reading, oh my gosh, Kayla, what's Tony's book called? In the Shadows of Ruin?
In the Shadows of Ruin, yeah.
Yeah. After reading that, I read another one as well. I think it was Con Ingledon, The Wolf of the Plains, about oh my goodness, why is it leaving me? The Khan, Genghis Khan. Like I've read that. Pretty much now I'm just like, okay, I think I need more historical fiction. So if that is ever translated into English, can you please let me know, because that sounds like right up my alley.
All right. So if you're into historical fiction, have you read any Tim Powers?
No.
Because what he does is, I mean, for me it's a bit hit and miss, but he would take a historical event and then build a paranormal fiction around it. So, and then what he does is he self-imposes rules. So he's not allowed to change any historical facts. So he cannot change where people were on a specific date. He cannot alter any historical facts. But like, I think Declare is a good one. It's around World War II, and Kim Philby, the British intelligence officer that defected to the Soviets. So he builds around that historical event, he builds a paranormal fiction around it, and about the search for I think it's Noah's Ark and stuff like that. So he is quite an interesting notion.
What's that one called?
That's called Declare by Tim Powers. And he also did Pirates of the Caribbean is based on one of his books.
On Stranger Tides.
On the Stranger Tides. That's right. That's right. And the other one that is good as well is Last Call, which is around the poker players in Vegas and stuff like that.
Okay, I've just got another couple of books to add to cart. Thanks, Jose.
This is why I use Goodreads. It saves me from adding books to my cart. I've added it too.
I wish there was a way whenever you order a book for it to automatically come off of your like want to buy list. So because I found myself still having books on that list that I've already picked up.
We live in a different universe.
How's the shipping there? Is it pretty expensive to have things shipped?
Yes, although mostly I buy stuff through, because 90%, 95% of what I read is in English. But now, after Brexit, Amazon Spain has started to sell books in English. So they're not actually being shipped from the UK. I don't know how they're getting them. And they're still reasonably priced. But books are cheaper in the UK than in Spain. So when I go in a couple of weeks' time, I'll probably be getting a few in London. But yeah, and then obviously with the Kindle, it doesn't really matter. You can buy in any language. But I way prefer the physical than digital, a bit like you, Steve. I saw that video, actually.
Yeah.
It's just that some books you cannot get here. So some books in English you cannot get. So that's why I ended up getting the Kindle, because some of the more obscure fantasy Dragonlance stuff from the 80s is just out of print. So no chance that it ever made it here.
Is it pretty expensive for you too, Kayla or Lana? The shipping? Are you muted?
Not so much the shipping, because I buy, I hate to say it, but I buy a lot of books from Amazon, because I read indie. So usually that's the shipping's free, but the actual books themselves, considering they are only printed 2 states down, the actual books themselves are ridiculous. So I think for paperbacks, the average is about $55.
Wow.
And indie paperbacks are between $27 to $35 for each. So yeah, when I say I've spent $500 on books, it's not actually a lot of books. Yeah, just a wee bit of money, but it's the only thing I spend money on, so I'm it's okay. If you even need validation for your bookish purchases, hit me up. I will validate all of your choices.
You see, I'm the weird one here, because I've got a self-imposed budget. Every month, this is how much I'm going to spend. And usually the first of the month, I'm there on Amazon trying to get the most out of the money, so different book combinations and stuff. Obviously, there's the odd month where I just go, whatever, I'm just going to buy a few more. But maybe I take fatherhood too seriously, so I try to exercise some restraint. And when I look at my child and I see he's got holes in his shoes, I go, maybe I need to buy him new trainers and not buy so many books. Because true story, he lasted with one pair of shoes for the whole school year, and it was actually embarrassing when we got to the last week of term. So yeah.
Spectre had a question. What do you think of Conan so far? I've seen a lot of new readers not getting into it.
I'm enjoying them for what they are. They're very nice to read between books. It's nice, very, very classical sword and sorcery stories. I'm not expecting any great character arcs. I'm not expecting any great themes. It's all just, adventure stories. They are well written. They're short, and yeah, it's okay between books. I wouldn't call home excited about get everyone to read them. But I always say, and I still think that it is important to go and read the classics, no matter what genre you are, because then when you are confronted with things like, I don't know, the great hype of Brandon Sanderson, you go, oh, hang on, this whole multiverse thing was done 40 years ago by someone else. It's not so original. So I think, it is good to mix and go back 50 years every now and then, or in the case of Conan, it's almost 100 years now.
Dave and Olive from Book Blather. Hey, Dave. You should have joined us tonight. Legends of the Brave Bard. Stay awesome. We'll tune in later. I have to go pick up dinner for the family.
Yeah, I'm going to pick up another beer. Sorry.
Yeah. He's going to get dinner too. So, how do both of you get out of a reading slump? I've heard a lot of people recently struggling with that.
For me, it's mixing genres. So changing up the genre that I'm reading if I'm feeling like I'm going to go into a slump. Normally I read a lot of fantasy, sci-fi, but I'll mix in some historical fantasy, classics, and even maybe like the method that I'm reading. So ebook versus physical versus audio. Just play around with it, honestly, and just if you're feeling like it's coming on, maybe just try something different and no stress about it. Just enjoy it. And if you're not, put it down.
Yeah, I'm very similar to Kayla. Either that, like I jump between the genres or the format, or I pick up a middle grade, especially if I'm like been in a really dark little space for a wee while. It's really nice to just pick up a middle grade, and the conflict in those stories is so much lighter and just easier to read. It doesn't hurt my heart so much. So it's a nice little palate cleanser, and slice of life books like Legends and Lattes are awesome as well for palate cleansers. Yeah, palate cleansers. All the palate cleansers when I'm in a reading slump.
What about you, Jose? How do you get out of a reading slump?
Never had them, mate.
No? What about a writing
Nope.
slump?
Oh, well, right. I've been on a writing slump for the last 10 years. No, I mean, look, I read so little, I haven't got time to have slumps, isn't it? When you're reading 2-3 books a month, you're just enjoying them and that's it. Writing is a completely different beast, isn't it? Like Thomas Mann said that a writer is only someone for whom writing is much harder than for everyone else. Sometimes you get the inspiration, and maybe you can fill a page and a half in one day, and then there are days where just getting a paragraph out is really complicated, and then you leave it for months, and then you come back to it and stuff. I would love to write again, but just at the moment now, my kids are young, they demand a lot of my time. My job is a bit weird because I don't get home until 6 p.m. I leave at 8 a.m. because I work in a British school, even though I'm in Spain. So the whole timetable is different. My day is longer than for everyone else. So I don't have that much time. And then obviously you've got to take the kids here and there, pick them up from these, pick them up from there, and stuff like that. So Monday to Friday is also very much routine. And then weekends, I dread them because you've got to entertain the kids for the whole weekend. And I'm sort of tentatively looking forward when they are a little bit older and a bit more independent. But at 4 and 7, hands full.
Danielle says pork chop in a can or a bottle. What are you having? What beer are you having?
It's an IPA from a brewery called Troll Brew. So in keeping with the fantasy theme.
Nice.
isn't it? I thought I'll leave the heavy stuff for some other night. I don't want to start speaking in Russian halfway through. Although I'm going to Belgium, in theory, I'm meeting Jolien next weekend. So hopefully she'll have the decency to buy me a beer there. And that'll be quite nice.
That's awesome. I love seeing like people in the bookish community meet up. Like, I get FOMO so bad being all by my lonesome pretty much in Australia, but it's so cool to see everyone catching up and having dinners, and it's just awesome.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a bit of a weird situation because as soon as the school finished, I packed the wife and kids off to the UK. So literally the day after, just drove them to the airport. And then I've got a week here being by myself, which I'm getting a lot of reading done. Then I'm off to Belgium because I've got a friend that lives there. So then I messaged Jolien and I said, look, I'm going to be over there. Don't get weirded out. Do you want to meet for coffee? She said yes, apparently. So, it'd be nice to sort of have a chat in person. And it was it was quite cool to see when John did his trip across the US and he met so many booktubers. I mean, have you guys seen his video? It was great. It was great. I'd love to do something like that.
Yeah, it was really neat. It was great to meet him, and it was I was surprised he met so many people on this trip across the country. It's really, really cool. One of these days, try and do that.
I mean, the US has got the geography for that, isn't it? It just you all speak the same language. You got the space. Unfortunately, here in Europe, you drive 4 hours, and we all speak a different language. It's a bit more complicated.
So I just said the Conan short stories actually hooked me on book reading. I went on to Tolkien, Lovecraft, and everything else after that. Dr. Puff and stuff. I think short stories are good. Genres too. I have Haruki Murakami's new book and short stories, and they are good pace changers.
I think just taking it back to that point about reading slumps, I think mixing it up is a good thing, isn't it? You might get burnt out because sorry Steve, I know you were reading Marathon. Did you guys finish that, or did you decide, guys, to take a break? What there was something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, we just finished the third book. We're taking a little break.
Yeah,
for the fourth one.
Yeah, because something like that, even I don't know, you must get fed up whether you enjoy it or not, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're trying not to take it. They're such thick and dense books. We're trying to just take our time and not try and to try and make it easy on everyone, because everyone has a lot of things they want to read. We don't want to hog everyone's time. And Danielle says she knows a few other booktubers in Australia, so you may not be by yourself.
Yeah, there is actually an awesome group of us. So I don't know. I have met one, Mel, from a book thing named Mel. That was awesome. She came and stayed with me, and I just kept looking at her, and I was like, I can see your whole body. This is weird. There's no screen. I was just like, it took a couple of minutes till I was just like, oh my gosh, you're actually here. Because a lot of the Aussie booktubers, we have a chat, and we all chat in there. But when people do meet up, it's really weird. So I'm hoping to be able to meet more of them in real life, IRL, very soon, maybe, hopefully. But yeah, it's really cool.
Twilight Zone plot twist. She was just a talking bust. There was nothing else.
Well, I can see your whole body. But yeah, so I think when's my next trip? Depending on a couple of things, I'll either be going to Tasmania, and there I'll see Mel, and would hope to catch up with Meredith, who's another Aussie booktuber. Sorry, my daughter's trying to get in the room. Hey, there you go. Success. Yeah, there are a few booktubers here, and I would love to, but it's just so expensive to get anywhere in Australia, and it's so spread out. Like I have a couple of friends in WA, but to get to WA, it's a lot easier to get to New Zealand and a lot cheaper to get to New Zealand than it is to get to the West Coast. Yeah.
And Chadia says, we all speak English too, Jose.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we don't even speak the same language here in Spain, so there you go.
And speaking of meeting people, I wanted to ask Kay about, you've been interviewing authors. What's that experience been like?
Entirely nerve-wracking every time. It's been awesome, but I always feel like I'm ill-experienced and just fangirling out too much to keep the questions straight. And of course, like, I'm still new to it, but it's been a lot of fun to be able to chat with all these authors, and I mean, for them to even want to stop by on my channel and talk with me, you know, and it's still processing in my brain that that's happening.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of fun to be able to ask questions about the books that you've read and see what the answers are, you know, like in a specific scene, you know, what their writing experience was like, getting to learn more about it. I feel like it just gives a different experience to, you know, actually reading the book. You get to know more about the person who wrote it, which is really fun.
Mm-hmm. How do you prepare for those? Do you have a list of questions before, or how do you put your process?
Yeah, so I have a list of questions that I write out beforehand, and I try to get as many as I can in while trying to keep just a natural flow of conversation going. So it's a little tricky learning to navigate it, but I don't want to take away from a natural conversation, but I still want to make sure those questions get asked.
Yeah, it can be tricky. Yeah.
You do it so well, like both of you, like your conversations. As soon as that notification pops up, I'm like, notify me when it's happening, because you guys ask all of the questions that I have. So I just think that you guys do such an amazing job when you're talking in general, but especially when you're speaking with authors and you get to the heart of the matter and get answered all the questions that we want answered.
No, you're pretty good at it too. We had really good chats with Zamil when we got a chance to talk to him.
That was awesome. And Zamil's just such an awesome dude.
Did you find, because if I had to do that, I'd probably end up stepping on every puddle on the way. But did you find you walk on eggshells there, like, or do you only interview people you've read and you like? Because have you ever interviewed someone that you didn't like what they wrote, and then how do you manage that in the conversation?
I mean, I don't think you can enjoy everything. There's been some authors I've connected with and enjoyed talking to, but I didn't hate what they, but it just wasn't for me, kind of thing. But I think you can still get to know about them and ask them questions that either people just curious about them or their work or their experiences, or people who do really enjoy their work would want to answer it. So there's ways to navigate that without, you know, but not all books are for everyone. So it's one of those things. You can still be interested and learn about someone and not necessarily be a huge fan of their work. What do you think about that, Kay?
I think you're right. I mean, I haven't done that many. I'm still new to it myself, but I've had books that I didn't particularly enjoy or I've DNF'd, and I still chat with the author, and they're always very nice. And I think it's just being able to separate the two is important.
Yeah. And yes, managing a live chat it does take some getting used to.
It's disorienting.
I'm still horrible. Yeah, I'm still horrible about it. So, yeah, and you can facilitate the conversation for people who might be in their audience, which is a great comment too. Yeah, that's what the live chat really comes in handy for, is things like that when you need a way to kick in the conversation or something to kind of get it going. The live chat and people asking questions really help out a lot.
I think too, trying to manage like whether or not you're doing spoilers, and if it's spoiler free, making sure that your questions and the conversations don't lead into anything that might be a spoiler for someone is tricky, because you might get a question in the chat, or the conversation might start leaning that way, and you're like, okay, well, we got to go back over here, but maybe another day.
Yeah, come back this way. Yeah, it can get tricky.
Did you guys? I mean, I know, Steve, you went to that horror convention a few months back, but when I was still living in London, I used to go a lot to all the as many Comic Cons as I could, and I don't think there is much of that for writers. I mean, one year, one of the London Comic Cons, they had like a mix of things, and they brought Scott Lynch, and they brought Brian McClellan, and they brought a few other authors, but there was barely anyone waiting to talk to them and stuff. Well, and for me, it was great. Like, I met Scott Lynch, had a chat, signed my books. Brian McClellan, same story. But is there something like that? Obviously, in the going on in the US, you got most people are from over there.
I think a lot of the cons now are focused more on movies and TV shows, unfortunately, just because there's just not as many people reading as there are people buying movie tickets now. So, but there are a few, like StokerCon was, there's a few fantasy cons coming up that are specifically for books, but I don't know that there is. I think if they incorporate things like cosplay and like video games and movies, and they're bigger and they're more popular, but just focused just on books and writing, they can get big, but they're not as often, I guess, or not as much as an event, I think. But what do you think about that, Kay?
I mean, I'm in Canada, so it's a little different here too. I've never really seen like a writers or an authors convention, so to speak, but usually we have events. So whether it's, we get a few authors come in, and it's like a gymnasium's worth of people that come through to ask questions and get signatures, but those are far and few, and usually they're Canadian authors, so they're local people. And then I don't know if anyone's familiar with Indigo, but it's our big bookseller here, similar to Barnes and Noble, and they'll have local authors come in too and do book signings as just sort of like a day event on a weekend. But aside from that, it's not a huge thing.
There's so many Canadian authors now, though.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one thing one of the many things I miss about living in London. There's this bookshop there called Forbidden Planet, and pretty much every month they will have someone coming in to do comic signings or book signings. And when they had Robin Hobb, I mean, the queue. I mean, usually the book signings are done on the basement of the shop, and the queue came out of the basement, up the stairs, out the shop, and round the corner of the block. It was ridiculous. And surely if a bookstore can do that in London with one author, you could have a fantasy convention where, because there are a lot of writers out there. There's a lot of people writing fantasy, more than we can actually keep. You read a book a lot quicker than you write it, and you never catch up. Which is what I find mind-boggling, that people don't read a lot these days, but there seem to be a lot of authors out there.
And Chetty says, of course, I expect nothing else for Queen Hobb.
It's only natural.
I think it's kind of along the lines of what you said, though. If you're not really in the book world, right, there's not many people are going to think to put these events together. So in that case with Robin Hobb, it was a bookshop. And then, if those bookshops aren't willing to put those events together, do the coordination with the authors, in some cases get them flown out for these events, it's tricky. And if you're just a small business, that could be quite intimidating.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, I don't know. I live in a ring-a-ding town on the Mediterranean, and I've got a channel, and surprisingly, there's 400 people that want to hear what I got to say. You guys have got thousands of subscribers. You monetize your channels. There's people that make a living out of talking about books on YouTube. So surely there's enough of a market out there to up and ramp up the fantasy world out there. No, clearly, if you can make a living talking about fantasy books on the internet, there's enough people buying the material.
Yeah, I'm definitely not in that making money off the internet talking about books. I'm so far from that. But like I'm just a little guy. But you pose like a really interesting question, because in Australia there is next to no like author events or signings. If there are, they're usually purely romance based or like romantasy. There isn't like fantasy or sci-fi or horror, thriller, anything other than romance in Australia. I'm going to 2 book events next year that are like pretty big, but they're both romance. There is nothing unless there are authors that go around with like the Comic-Con when that happens. But other than that, there is nothing in Australia that I know of for like the fantasy readers and the horror readers. So yeah, I want that, but I just don't know if there's enough interest to make it worth putting together, because I have had a look at like how much it costs to do. It's very much not cheap.
And I think there's the other point too, and like, yes, you're right. There's a lot of interest, a lot of people talking about it. Some people make their living off it. Like Lana, I am not one of those people. I'm a small booktuber too, but I wouldn't read as much as I do. I wouldn't be able to talk to other people about the books that I read if it wasn't for the internet. Right. Like I've looked for book clubs in my area and I just couldn't find any that had, similar tastes, or just there was one and they got together once every 3 months. Right. So I think in-person stuff is trickier, and maybe, I don't know, like Lana said, the cost is there. I don't presume to know what stores or people decide to do, but I think it's trickier to do in-person stuff, and maybe it's just not popular enough in person. And online, absolutely.
All right, but hear me out, because I've gone to enough Comic Cons where, you go to a Comic Con, you pay the ticket to get in, and then to have your comic signed, you have to pay the author or the artist that is there another £10 or £20, depending on the comic. And if it's a big name, you have to pay an extra ticket that is limited and stuff like that. So, and that's comics, which sell a lot less than books. So if someone out there organized a fantasy con and say, you got Scott Lynch, you got Robin Hobb, I'm not even going to talk about George Martin, and a bunch of other authors that are not your million sellers, there's got to be enough people that will want to go and pay $20 for a ticket and happily pay $5 to have the book signed by Robin Hobb. And the author makes so much money just from book signings on the day, because I've seen it happen at Comic Cons, where the artist would sit there and charge you $10 for a signature, and there's a queue of people, all cash in hand, making $1,000, $2,000 for a weekend just signing books. I don't know. I think it could happen.
No, those are all great points. I definitely I agree with those, but can we like sign a petition to get someone organizing these? Because that's that's what we need, someone to organize it all.
Well, I've only know one person in the US, Steve, that can do that. So,
I'll get right on that.
you've been talking to authors. So Steve Con should be a thing next year.
Oh yeah, Steve Con 2023. Chatty said, I talked to a Dutch fantasy author on Facebook. He said he doesn't do events because not enough people come to them, and his books are very good, but it's a small niche in Belgium. And it is interesting because you mentioned there's so many books being written. A lot of writers started during the pandemic, and now that things are starting to ease up a little bit, I think people are still a little nervous to travel. So that might be another hurdle, that people are waiting for things to calm down even more, because I know some people are still being cautious and not wanting to go too far and to be around too many people at one time. But I think if you had the right mix, and I'm sure getting the authors in one place at one time would be a challenge in itself. Just to schedule an author for a live stream sometimes takes some work. So just imagine getting them to come physically to a location for over a week or whatever. I'm sure that's a lot of moving parts. So you need a team of people to do that.
Okay, what am I missing? They're authors. All they do is sit down and write when they write, because I'm not talking about George Martin, right? So if your job is to sit down and write, and you get invited for a weekend, all expenses paid in, where do you live, Steve? New Mexico, right?
New Mexico, yeah.
There you go. What's a plane ticket from Michigan to Albuquerque? We can go there, sign a few books, take a couple of selfies. It cannot be that difficult.
Oh, then you need a venue, you need food, you need vendors. I mean, you need booths.
Who is paying for this all expenses paid trip? Because if I'm putting on a a big event, then like I can't buy your tickets.
Okay, so hang on. All right, like I don't know jack all about any of this. I don't. But if it can happen for comics, why can it not happen for fantasy? I don't even live in a big city in Spain. I don't. So the biggest city up the road where I live, it's 1 hour north on the coast. It's not even 1 million people, and they can organize a Comic-Con and bring international Eisner Award-winning artists and authors to come in and sign comics for people over a weekend. They can't do that in a small city of less than 1 million people in Spain, and they can bring American authors over. Why can it not happen for fantasy?
I think part of it is the comics industry right now is a lot of it is they focus more on the movies to get people in the door, because so many people watch the movies. So that's kind of their barrier for entry. Is you love these movies, come to the con, and we'll have a sneak peek at the next movie, or we'll have a trailer, we'll have the actors come and you can say hi to them or whatever. So I think that's what's keeping Comic-Cons alive is the other forms of entertainment that go along with the comics, because the comics industry is in pretty bad shape right now. Chris said, COVID hasn't helped the event life, but in normal times, there would be a few conventions where I live in Northern Ireland organized by passionate individuals rather than companies. Yeah, I think the pandemic is a big, hopefully things will get better. Danielle said, how many readers are natural born introverts?
How do you spot the extrovert in a fantasy book convention? He's the one looking at other people's shoes.
Shadia said, we have Fantasy Fest in Holland. It's organized by publishers, so it does happen.
There you go. Oh, sorry, Shadia. Do you live in Holland?
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming she lives in Holland.
I assume so, yeah.
I used to live.
Books there, of course. Yeah.
I used to live in Holland for a bit.
And I think now, I don't know if this was always a thing, but they're doing pre-orders as well. So for a lot of people that are coming to the events that I'm going to next year, like I've already spent a lot of money on their pre-orders, and it's still a year away from the actual event. So then at least they, like from an author's perspective, not that I am one, but they can see like pretty early on whether it's going to be worth it for them. I think in Australia, when authors sign up to do an event, like a big event, like the Ball Gowns and Books event, or I can't remember what the other one is called, Rare, but I think the authors need to pay to be a part of it because it's so big. Like I think there's 700 authors on the wait list for the Babe book event.
Wow.
So I do think that they pay, but because they have pre-orders and it's exposure for them and all that, I think it's worth it for them. So I don't know if that's how it works like in other countries, but I'm pretty sure that's how it works here in Australia. And they're all set up by mostly authors or fans that have event planning backgrounds.
Wow. Chadia says, no, I live in Belgium.
Well,
Like
I'm
Helene.
I'm going to be there from Thursday to Tuesday next week. So if you want to buy me a beer or a cup of coffee, it's acceptable.
Or the Wheel of Time box set. Yeah.
Oh, you evil, evil man.
You know what? Jimmy Nuts from the Fantasy Network actually brought up a great idea, which I thought was a great idea, is having like a Booktube con and having a place where just Booktubers show up. And if something like that, you would just need a venue, and I don't know, that might be fun one of these days. And I say that to everyone. We all live around the world, so it depends on where it is, but it might be fun.
I don't get it. I don't get the whole Booktube. Not Booktube. I don't know what to say, but like a couple of Comic Cons I went to, there were YouTubers there, and there were bigger queues for the YouTuber than for your award-winning, Batman writer or Superman artist or whatever. And I'm too old. I was born in the last century. Maybe that's my problem. I just don't get it. I don't get the whole YouTuber thing.
They might hear you. Miss Bell Jared is here. Hello, everyone. Hope you all are doing very well.
Hello, Jared.
Pretty well.
Cheers. Lately I've been seeing all the work that authors do, and not that I haven't noticed before, but I noticed all the work they do promoting their work. It's so much work goes into it to not only write the book. That's just like the first step, and the rest. It's just so much work to promote and to get it out there for people, in people's hands. It's just, I don't know if I could do it.
And like I think Trudy Canavan is an Australian author, isn't she, Lana?
Who, sorry?
Trudy Canavan?
How do you spell the first name?
Trudy, Trudi.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and like she came to London to this bookstore to I met her. She signed my books, had a bit of a chat, and I think if I was a published author, I would love to travel places and meet fans. Admittedly, yeah, some of the fantasy fans do smell a little bit, and it cannot be that pleasant up front. Yeah, no, Kayla, I'm telling it like it is, right? Because I've been in those queues, and I know those bookstores in the basement. Personal hygiene is optional. But I don't know. It must be great to go. Hey, here's your plane ticket. That's your hotel. Come for an hour and a half book signings, and I'll be really excited to do that.
I mean, you have to think on maybe the individual level. Some people might not like to travel, Some people might not want to be away from their families, and maybe some people just view it as it is their day job, right? Some authors might not want to meet or interact with fans in that way. So it could be at that level. And then there's people who might go, yeah, let's do it. But yeah, there's a lot of variables.
But because there was the whole controversy with George Martin and whether he should finish or not finish the series and all the stuff. When you got people that buy your books and they facilitate your lifestyle, and let's face it, if you've chosen to be a writer, that's your dream career. No one becomes a fantasy writer because they need a job to pay the bills, right? This is your vocation. So you have a special relationship with your clients. So if I don't want to be entitled, but if I'm facilitating your dream job, the least you could do is sign my book, take a selfie, and say thanks for coming round. Maybe no. Am I too entitled? Like, I'm willing to part with my money. Like at this stage, I would pre-order anything George Martin is gonna write if I knew he was gonna write it.
Chatty had a comment. I would rather come in to talk to you YouTubers than big movie stars. Oh, thank you.
Oh.
And Inspector says, hey, aren't you guys YouTubers? Inspector said, I'd rather watch you guys than a bunch of Marvel comic writers. Thank you.
Oh, I don't know about
Thank
that.
you, yeah. Danielle, I think there are probably some authors that are better at public relations than others.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think some people just want to write and sell their books and not have to interact. They're introverts, or they're just not people persons. Yeah.
I mean, I've seen it at Comic Cons. There are artists or writers who would just sign your book and give it away without looking at you, and you feel quite sort of little there that you're bothering them. And there are people there are big names where I've been like, oh, just stop talking and let me go away. They are so nice, and they're telling you their story, and they're telling you about their work and everything, and they give so much time to the fans that, yeah, obviously it depends on the person, but yeah.
I think it's a mix of both, right? I mean, for myself, if I'm trying to think of it as a reader, I still want to be respectful of that author's decisions and their choices. So, yeah, I bought your book, but at the same time, if traveling isn't an option for you, or you're an introvert and you just don't want to meet me, I personally would want to respect that. I love your work because I love your work. That's my take on it, at least. And there's all different kinds of people out there, so there's going to be all different kinds of views on it.
Yeah, I'm one of. Oh, sorry, go Steve.
No, go ahead, Lana.
I was just going to say I am also one of those people that, like Kayla said, if I see like a famous author or just anyone famous, whether it's at like just walking past them or at a restaurant or like at a con, I'll look at them and I sort of be like, I know who you are. Oh my goodness. And then I'll like just keep walking because I'm like, I don't want to bother you because I'm sure you get bothered all the time. So I'm like, I don't want to be that like annoying person fangirling, even though inside I'm screaming. But I'll just be like, and then just keep walking.
Miss Bell George said, I would love to have someone ask me to sign their book, so I don't think you are too entitled.
Fucking yeah.
Jared, I'd love you to sign my book of yours that I have. You just live so far away.
I'll send you my book.
Yeah.
I think if you aren't a people person, if I was in that position, I would probably not want to meet people. And as a reader, if I like someone's book and I met them and they were not very pleasant, then it might sour me in the whole thing. So I'd rather not meet them. If it's not for them, then I'm good. Just reading the books and enjoying it. I don't have to know everything about you.
Is that never meet your heroes thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it can be detriment. You meet certain people not very pleasant, or so it can sour you on some things that you enjoyed before, and sometimes it's hard to get over.
And that's
I
like the
sorry,
same
go
with
on.
so that's the same with social media. Like there have been a couple of authors, like recently on Book Talk. I watch a lot of Book Talk, but they have come out and said things when they just really shouldn't have. Like sometimes just stick to your book. You don't need to put like your opinions or anything like that out there. Sometimes it is better just be the book. Like that's fine. Yeah, because I've seen some stuff and I'm like, oh, I liked that book, but you as a human, not so much. And if I love the book but I don't really like the person, I will probably not read the book because there are so many great books in my TBR by amazing humans that I would rather read that than read someone who has a great story but is a piece of crap. So yeah, that's like my little thing.
And I think
Yeah.
if you want to put yourself out there and you want to say whatever, then uh, go for it. I mean, but there's consequences to it. I mean, I'm sure no matter what you say, someone's going to be upset. But if you just sometimes it's better. Silence is golden sometimes.
Yeah, that's when I used to be on Twitter. Yeah, you start following different authors, hoping that they're going to say something about what they're up to, what, the writing, whatever. But all they're doing is just spewing their political ideas, and it's like, mate, I'm not following you because of who you vote or what you think about X, Y, Z topic. And yeah, so I think I lasted about 3 months on Twitter, and then it's like I'm out. Yeah, like like Lana said, I'd rather not know about you and read your books, if I like them, and not have my view tainted by whatever you think. Because I think you got to separate the art from the artist, in my opinion.
The other reason that indie books are so great is because a lot of the authors would love to talk to you, and they love to chat with you and they want to hear from you. So if I know we're not King fans, but if you wanted to say, "Hey, Stephen King, I love your book," he doesn't care. But if you tell most indie authors, be like, "Hey, thank you for reading it. I really appreciate it. I'm glad you loved it," or whatever. So that's one positive. That's another great thing about it. They're very accessible and very 99% of the time very pleasant and nice.
And I think that goes for, I don't know if you're going to say this, Lona, but for the Discord groups as well, for, like the Indie Accords readathon that we're doing, the Discord there's a lot of indie authors that are participating and just chatting with people and, talking with the people while they're reading the book. And I think that, it adds a different experience to reading it, but it's also awesome that you get to ask questions right to the author when you're reading or after you've read it. Just it makes it fun.
To put a downer on things, aren't they
Oh.
doing that? No, hey, it's me. Otherwise, it wouldn't be me, right? But to put
Okay.
a downer on things, right? Are they doing that because they are an indie author? They're trying to make it. They're putting all the legwork, all the groundwork, and eventually, when Bantam, Tor, whatever, Harper come calling, and they get the professional contract and the advance for the next book, all that ends.
I think the upper tier authors maybe just don't have the time, or I'm sure they get bombarded with questions. And if Stephen King and he gets 1,000 messages a day or whatever it is, I mean, it's hard for one person to keep up with all that. So that's another thing too. But I think most of it's I'm sure some of it is. I have to deal with this guy, but I think but most of it feels genuine to me. I think it's just people. A lot of these people have day jobs and they're just out of the love of the art and want to get their work out. So
Yeah, but it is an ego trip. Like like you say, I had a day job and I used to write in the evenings, weekends. It would take me like 2 years to write up an 80,000-page book or whatever. If I had put that out there and there was someone on the internet that wanted to talk to me about it, I wouldn't be able to fit through the door with my ego this big, right? I'll be like, yeah, I'll talk to you. I'll come into your channel. It must be quite boosting for them to have someone in some remote corner of the world go, "Hey, I picked up your book. I liked it. Let's talk about it." I'll jump at the opportunity.
I actually spoke with an author last night, and we were like sort of talking about that, and about whether they like getting messages from people that read, like as they read, and getting like a commentary as they're reading. And she said that she absolutely loves it, because when she started, she was a fangirl, and she wanted to like message all of her favorite authors as she's reading the book and be like, "Oh my god, this is amazing," and "Oh my god, I can't believe you killed that person, you bitch." Like, and so now that she's getting those messages, firstly she's just like, "Oh my gosh, someone actually just read my book." And so that's like, yes, there's like the validation, but also it's just, she knows what it's like to be a fangirl. And so to have people fangirl over her things, it like kind of comes full cycle. And she's just, more than anything, the thing that came across is just gratitude. And it just came across so like genuine, and and she was back to like the con things. She's like, "I love to go to cons, both as a reader and an author, because she gets to fangirl out with her fangirls." So like I think it's like fully genuine, and like especially in the Discord for Indie Accords, the conversations that are being had, and with the authors and stuff, that it's just so genuine and cool, and you get like an extra layer, as Kayla said. You get an extra layer and history and what was going through your mind at this point. It's yeah, as Kayla said, it is a whole different experience, and it just takes it up a level. But I think it's super cool.
Just to add to that, it just feels like you're talking to anyone else. Like, I know you're talking to the author, but the way the conversations end up going, it just feels like you're talking to another friend or another book nerd, you know?
Because they are.
It's true, yeah. And where do you all sit with? I spoke to an author a while back, and they were telling me that they really missed book signings, because book signings weren't a thing because of the pandemic, and things have opened up since then. But he did tell me that he missed the chance to just look people in the eye and shake their hand, and to have their book signed by them. So hopefully that stuff will come back and people get a chance to do that again. Well, it is nice getting a book shipped to you that's signed. I mean, of course, I love that, but it would be cool to like actually meet someone and have them sign it in front of you, and that's a step above. But
yeah, it's totally different, because you get it personalized, and like the good authors. Like, I remember when I met Sir Terry Pratchett, he wrote like 41 Discworld novels. So whenever he signed one of his books, he had a different tagline for each book. So depending on which book was signing, he will write something different on the inside for you, and he'll personalize it and stuff like that. Same with Scott Lynch. I've got a couple of his books signed, and each one says something different that he's got sort of pre-recorded in his head, and to dedicate them and stuff like that. So it is very different to just getting a signature, totally sort of anonymous there on the book. Although I still like to have them in my collection.
Can't go wrong. Chris says, contributing to positive conversations about books, not just their own, shows it's not just about building the careers. We're all book fans.
Yes, 100% to this comment, Chris. 100%.
And Thiago is great at trash talk too, so he gets.
Oh, he is the best. I can't wait to see him eat raisins.
He almost just his trash talk alone almost had me reinstall Discord, but
almost.
So, Lana, can you give us a sneak peek at what you have planned for next year for the indie Accords, or can you give us a hint? You can be as cryptic as you want.
Okay, so the Indie Accords will be happening at least twice a year, because we've had a lot of feedback saying, I've had so much fun with this readathon, like we need more of it. So we're just giving the people what they want. But we're also looking at
It's okay if you can't.
Yeah, we're looking at making it I'll just say we're looking at making it a thing. So just be prepared to see a lot more indie Accords around.
So what I'm putting together is you're talking about an Indie Accords Con.
Maybe 2024.
Just
blink. Once for yes, two for no.
Yeah, and yeah, we have quite a few things planned. So,
that would be really cool.
Yes. I've actually was it yesterday, Kayla? I messaged you and I was just like, I'm bringing you in.
Yes. Yeah. I'm excited.
I was like, I need help and ideas and stuff. You're in. It wasn't an option.
No, not really. But the readathons for me are like potato chips. I have to be a part of them. They're so much fun.
Yeah. Same for me. And yeah, when I first, I think I wasn't even on, I think I might have just started my channel when I thought of the Indie Accords, but I was like, no one knows me. I don't know anything. I'm not going to do it. And then I held that off for a year. And then I was like, you know what? Because I was like, someone else has done this. Someone else is doing this. And so I stuck around for a year, just like sort of watching and see. And there were like indie sort of readathons, but they were always like just the fantasy genre. And I was like, but what about all of the other ones? So that's how Indie Accords came about. And yeah, no, it's just become bigger, way bigger than I thought it was ever going to be. And it was actually Jordan and Thiago that made me think bigger. So I was like, yeah, I'm just happy with my little readathon that we do once a year and it's great. And they're like, but you know, if you did this and you can also do this, and how about if we made this? And I'm just like, that is a lot of work. And they're like, yeah, but if we did this and we did this, and I'm like, okay, yes, let's do that. So I really have them to thank for where this will be going. Again, watch this space.
Excited to hear about it.
So what you're saying is Thiago's going to be coming back for more trash talking.
Yes, he has like put himself as a permanent fixture. I just love that he just like as soon as he was just like, oh, I want to be a part of this, he just took it and then just ran with it. And that as a creator of anything, it's just amazing and unreal that someone cares enough about something that you created. Like I kind of can see what authors sort of feel like when people are just like, this is like theories and all of that sort of stuff. They've just taken something that you've created and made it like their own. So yeah, I'm very, very humbled and just very appreciative of the community and everyone. Yeah.
And for reference, we are talking about Thiago Abdallah, the author of A Touch of Light. So just to plug his work. And our friend Taylor's here. Indie Accords is amazing, Lana. Thank you for all the work you put in.
Thanks, Tay.
Well, I know it's getting late for Jose.
It's okay. I'm on holidays, no wife, no kids. I'm easygoing. I don't mind.
You're two IPAs in, so I'm sure that helps.
Yeah. I still got the heavy stuff in the fridge, so if we got time for another one, I'm happy to continue. It's
Oh,
all
it's
right.
heavy. What's the heavier stuff?
I've got, in preparation for my trip, I've got a Belgian quadruple beer in the fridge, which can make an appearance or not, depending on whether we're going to continue having a chat or not. I'm
Well,
easy.
well, now I have to see it. So
All right. Okay.
let's
Hold
take
it
a look
then.
at it.
Yeah. Let me get a proper glass then, because everything
It won't
needs
fit in
its
the other
own.
glass. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I'll be back.
I'm way too curious now. Well, that's exciting, Lana. That's it's pretty neat. You have all that going on. So I can tell that you have more, but I know you can't tell us everything. But lots of exciting stuff coming.
Yeah. Yeah, I have so much going on at the moment. It's kind of crazy. So I'm really excited to see how it all plays out. And yeah, bookish things have been my life for so long. So to be able to make it like a pretty big and solid part of my life is kind of a dream come true. So.
So Taylor, what is a Belgian quadruple? Collecting the
Considering it's you.
Yes, I have to see this. So we have a question for you. What's a Belgian quadruple?
It's about the different, what you call them in English.
Hops.
Yes, thank you. The hops. Yep. So it's the hops. This is a 10.5% beer. So we're on white wine territory, basically, in terms of ABV. And it's in preparation for my trip to Belgium next week. The liver has been bad and it needs to be punished. And obviously, it needs to be served in a chalice glass because it's the right thing to do. Sorry. You see, the truth comes out now. Fact is, I do have some liver damage issues for things unrelated. So my alcohol intake is actually quite limited, contrary to what may appear tonight. So,
okay.
Honestly, I drink very little. But when I do, I just drink proper stuff. I'm not going to drink cheap, macro beer. I'm not going to drink Carlsberg. I'm not going to drink Coors or anything like that. I only drink craft beer or sort of proper, sort of heavy stuff because I'm going to have 3 beers a week. I'm going to have nice stuff.
Yeah, if you're gonna do it, it's worth doing right, I guess. Yeah.
That's right.
Be careful. Yeah.
It's only
scared for you, Oliver.
It's only a short crawl to bed. Is right.
So, Kay, your channel is still fairly new. What's your experience been like since you started your channel?
It's been overwhelmingly positive, I have to say. I put off starting it for a long time, and it was my partner who basically said, all right, time to just sit down and do it. But everyone's been so supportive. Like my first video that went up, there was so many people who just started spamming it everywhere, and not at all what I was expecting. My thoughts were 2 people might come by. One of them would be my partner, maybe one my mom, and that would be it. So it's been a lot of learning curves and just phenomenal to interact with everyone. And I mean, the community is just amazing, as anyone will say. Yeah.
What's been your biggest surprise?
That people
like a
want
voice.
to that people want to actually hear what you have to say. I don't feel like I say anything special, but and the fact that people like my voice, that is the weirdest thing to me. So yeah.
Since we're on the topic, what kind of mic do you have? I'm curious.
It's the Shure MV7, I think.
Oh, nice. Very nice. And Jose, what's your experience been like on BookTube?
It's been I gotta get some perspective. No, it's been very positive, but I started years ago. I started before the pandemic, and I didn't have a clue what I was doing. And you think that you're gonna have thousands of subscribers and everything's gonna be great, and it's gonna go there, and then you realize that probably I got crap materials, I got crap resources, I probably haven't got anything that is too clever to say, and then all of a sudden one day some random person that you don't know subscribes to your channel, and you go, oh, what's this? And then slowly by slowly, and I've only got like 400 subscribers. It's not even anything major, but the interactions is what does it for me. I live in a small town in Spain. Who am I going to be talking to about how crap the Wheel of Time is? I need to vent. I need to get my anger out there in the world, and for people to go, oh yeah, you're absolutely right, or for some people to go, no, you're a moron and you got it wrong, and have that sort of exchange of ideas. That's the best thing about it.
What about you, Lana? How's your experience been?
My experience has been nothing but positive. Since I first posted my first thing, I was the same. I thought the two people that watched my video would be my partner and my best friend. I didn't even think that my parents would watch it, and that if I wanted to get that view, I would have to like sit them down and be like, watch my video. So I think like when I first started as well, because from being a lurker for so long, I thought that I had to post every week or twice a week, and it had to be like this schedule, and I kind of put that pressure on myself initially. But since then, I've just come to the realization that I'm too chaotic to have a schedule. And life is hectic, and I would rather watch and consume others' content than create it, but I still want to be in the community. And if I have something to say specifically or anything like that, and if I do have time, because honestly, I have like 10 videos that need to be edited and posted. When that will happen, if I even post them, who knows? But I'm very comfortable just being a hobby booktuber, which took me about 1.5 years to get okay with. So if there's anyone out there that is feeling like kind of down because they're not posting consistently or anything like that, it's fine. There are hobby booktubers out there. But yeah, for me, the community is the community. The friends that I've made, like I talk to like you guys more than I talk to like my family and my friends. So when everyone's just like, oh, my partner said something about like my internet friends, and I was just like, my internet friends are real friends, thank you very much. And then it wasn't until Mel came to stay with us, he was like, oh my gosh, okay, you guys are actually real friends. And I was just like, yeah, I've known these people for like at least 2 years. Like I talk to them on nearly like a daily basis. Like we're good, solid friends. So yeah. Yes. Thank you. Yeah, I think because I didn't see when I first started, everyone had like a set schedule, and I felt pressured to be the same, and it wasn't from anything anyone else did. It was just purely on myself. So I think just letting everyone know it's okay to not do that. If it causes you like stress or anxiety, then that's all good. Just do you.
And Taylor said consistency is rough. I'll be on a good schedule for a while, then it all goes to shit. That's what happens. There's just some week I've tried to keep a semi-regular schedule, but there's some weeks and it just doesn't happen, just for whatever reason. So it's tough. Batch filming. Dr. Puff and stuff. I'm a lurker too, but creators need lurkers. It's true. It's very true. You're not a lurker anymore. Well, we did the podcast earlier, so you're coming to the dark side slowly.
I think, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but for me, it took a while to realize that, like this is a hobby and I'll just upload videos as and when I can. And whatever I get out of it is going to be good because, I wouldn't be having this conversation at all. And, if I didn't have the channel and I didn't connect with people. But once you appreciate or you get in the mindset that it's a hobby, you have to forget about feeling pressurized about reading so many books or how long your TBR is or how many videos I have to upload. And eventually you just talk about whatever you're reading, whatever you want, and not feel any pressure to read any specific books or have any opinions. Because honestly, I've seen people in Booktube out there that I get a distinct impression that they're just liking things because they've, it's whatever author, whatever series, and they have to like it. Or, I've seen people recommend books that they openly recognize they haven't read. And I'm like, oh my God, what is that all about? And, you do your thing and that's it. There's no pressure. There is no expectation.
Toast, I'll never understand the weirdness people have around batch filming. I feel like we all feel pressure to apologize for it for some reason, even though it's the only way a lot of us can make content. Yeah, I have like a day or two of my week that I can do stuff usually. What about you guys? Is there a certain day that you try to do things, or you just whatever it happens?
For myself, whenever I can fit it in, try to make a routine, but no, it doesn't stick.
I quite often forget to film. Like vlogging is just not my thing. I'm like, for the India Chords, I'm like, yes, I'm going to vlog every book and like every day I'm going to have some content. And then I pick up a book and completely forget. Like vlogging is, yeah, I'm like a live in the moment / like squirrel sort of person. So when I have to like think of actually picking up my phone to record something, I forget because it's not something that is natural to me. It's only afterwards that I'm like, I would love to have that on camera so I could actually remember this and relive it.
Vlogs are tough for whoever out there can do vlogs. Respect to you because they're tough to do. There's a lot of work to make them not only to film them, to edit them, and to make them interesting and short, but still have the vlog feel. It's really, really tough. So those of you who are good at it, respect to you.
Taylor is very good at it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like sometimes I have to be in the mood for recording myself. And if I'm not, it's just better to leave it and just find another day or another moment where you are in the mood to actually say whatever you're thinking about, whatever book you've read recently.
Yeah, sometimes you're just not feeling it for whatever reason. Chatty had an interesting comment. As a lurker, I think you guys put more pressure on yourselves than your subscribers do. It's probably true.
Especially as like a smaller booktuber or someone just starting, because there are so many established booktubers. Like imposter syndrome is real. And especially when you see like the different kinds of booktubers, like booktubers that are really analytical and really good at like words. which I am clearly not. Like there is that pressure there. Like every now and then, there's like a thing that goes off in my head saying, "Why are you even going to record that review? Like such and such and such and such and such and such did the same review, but like 10 times better. It's just better just to not." So the imposter syndrome is real.
I mean, I would like to think that, because you pick whatever series, and there is tens, if not hundreds, of reviews of the same series out there. So I'm just secretly hoping that maybe I'm gonna say something that someone hasn't said before. But you are right. There's people out there that are really good with words, and I look at them with envy, jealousy, and hatred. It's like, you mother's hopper, like I wish I talked like they've got a niche with words that I do not have. But I suppose I'm used to it, because I enjoy running. I take part in races. I've never won a race in my life. I know I never will. So I think with booktubing it's the same. Like, I know I'm never gonna have however many thousand subscribers. I know I'm never gonna make a living out of it. But I'm hoping that maybe I can say something in a way, or pick on something that someone hasn't said before. That's the hope, I suppose.
Yeah, Chris had an interesting comment, and John from Hey Yellow listened up as a mood filmer as well, Jose, so you're not alone. He said, I've a friend with about 30,000 subscribers, and when he doesn't post for a while, the abuse he gets is insane. I find it really bizarre. From subscribers. Taylor said Taylor's very good at it. She says, really as I spent the last night desperately looking into the intro clip at last from last month.
Oh no.
That would be frustrating.
Yeah. I hope you find it. It's nothing worse. Especially if it, like, could you re-record it if not, though?
So.
Okay, just going back to, like, Chris's comments. That's insane.
Mm.
If it's like, oh hey, when are you posting next? We missed your content because it's amazing. That's one thing, but to cop abuse for not posting is like, what? Your subscribers need hobbies.
I wonder how often that person posts, or what the schedule is for that person that's getting grief for not posting in a while. It's a, I guess, good and bad thing.
Time to confess, right? Time to, I'm just gonna put it out there and see if the cat licks it, right?
Is it the quadruple talking, or are you being serious?
Possibly. As the Romans used to say, in vino veritas, right? In wine you'll find the truth. So there are some booktubers out there that I actually make a point of not watching or subscribing, because they are too fucking handsome or attractive. Whether it's a guy or a girl, it's like, no, you're too pretty, therefore I cannot take you seriously. I'm fucking jealous. Like, I'm jealous you got thousands of subscribers because you're hot. Guy or girl, I don't care. And I feel my own inadequacy, like my own shortcomings as a person. And it's like, I don't care what you got to say. Maybe it's a good point, but you're too attractive. And because I'm not like that, and secretly I hope that the only reason they got so many subscribers is because they're attractive people, and not because of actually the depth of what they're saying. So that's my sort of inner insecurities coming out here. But is it just me once again? Am I the only crazy one here? I guess I am. All right. Continue drinking now.
I think it's like quadruple talking.
All right.
Taylor said, vlogs are hard to re-record because the hit changes for me, actually. It's actually obvious when I'm lying about the timeline.
Swiftly moving on, right, Steve?
Yeah, yeah. That's how I know you watch my videos, so it's okay. I'll let you slide on that one. Oh man.
Yeah. I love to make uncomfortable is the new funny, right? If you make everyone uncomfortable, that's the new funny.
No, it was funny. Oh, not uncomfortable. It was just funny.
It was.
So yes,
Just
so,
hilarious.
And I don't have to answer. I don't have an issue with that. It's not it's not something that I won't watch because not consciously at least. I don't not subscribe to people because they're too pretty.
And our friend Epic is here. Also, Chadia says, I wanted to say the beer is working.
Thanks.
Yeah. Carl says, the majority of what I read, I don't see covered on Booktube. And then again, I don't follow many channels. I'd start a channel myself, only I'm unable to talk to camera without receiving a response. It does take a while to get used to talking to a camera, not getting feedback. So, Carl, that's something, give it a shot. I think anyone who's considering starting a channel, I'd say just give it a try it out. Because I think it is weird at first, but especially if there's books that you read that you don't see covered, then it's a great chance to tell us about what you enjoy and more people can check it out. So, yeah, I'd say just give it a shot. It's weird at first, but you get used to it. Kind of. And criticism, shallow, instant subscribe. Taylor said, it's a visual medium, so Jose has a point that looks do matter oftentimes, not just for people, but backgrounds too.
Yeah, those people with the funky bookshelves of hundreds of books that they haven't read, that they just bought for decoration purposes. Oh my God, that takes us back to a conversation an hour and a half ago.
Yeah, it's true. We've come full circle.
That's right.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, yeah.
I'm just bitter that I'm ugly. I speak with a funny accent and I haven't got a fuck off bookshelf to show in the background.
I think it's a great accent.
I think so too. I don't like my accent, but I think your accent is very interesting because you don't hear it often on like media.
For a reason.
I like it, and everyone has a great accent. There's our friend P.L. Stewart's here.
Hey, Pio.
Hey, P.L. One of the reasons to do it yourself is that the algorithm will find content more relevant to you. So yeah, it can be beneficial. So I think it's getting late for Jose out there. The quadruple is talking, but I don't want to keep you guys too long. Thank you all for coming by to chat. It's been a great time. Not uncomfortable, Jose. It's been good. Don't worry. Very revealing.
I can see. I can see I'm not gonna get an invite anytime soon. So
no, of course not.
It was very nice. Thank you.
No, you're welcome anytime. Don't be silly. Kay, do you want to tell us where the best place for people to find you?
Sure. The best place is my Booktube channel, Kay's Hidden Shelf, or Twitter, Kay's Hidden Shelf.
And Lana?
I am on YouTube as Lore and Lullabies, and also on Instagram, Twitter, all of the other social things as Lana_Lullabies, or in the India Chords Discord, which has links everywhere.
And Jose, the Chatty does have a comment for you. Yes, Spanish accent is cute. Maybe I'll unsubscribe now. Too cute. See what you did?
Success.
See what you've done? You've sabotaged your own channel.
Yeah, that's what happens every time I post a new video. I lose a couple of subscribers.
Where can people find you, Jose?
Well, they can't, because I've actually done the search on YouTube. You type Amazing Worlds, which is the title of my channel, and it doesn't crop up. So maybe have to do a bit more of a focused search and just type Amazing Worlds book reviews or something like that. But it doesn't really matter. So long as people are watching and enjoying the conversations, that's all that matters.
Good. Amazing Worlds, The Wheel of Time is the best series ever, and then it'll pop right up.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And thanks to John for coming by and everyone else in the chat. Chris, amazing fun. Thanks. And Chadia, you lost a subscriber. See what you've done to yourself.
Exactly.
So thanks everyone for coming by. Thanks all of you for coming by to chat. It's always a great way to start the weekend. I really appreciate you taking the time. I know we're all busy, so thank you for spending the time to hang out and shoot the breeze. So hope everyone has a great weekend. Thanks again, and we'll see everyone soon.